quick question. As you got older and you started to understand that you had therapists and you were going through these therapies, do you feel like because you were more aware and you obviously were older, do you feel like some people just, would they explain things to you rather than just do them without, would they actually talk to you about these are the reasons, this is why we don't want you to do this, that type thing?
I think, yeah, I definitely got your point.
And do you feel like that was better than, was that better for you hearing the reasons why maybe this wasn't such a good thing to do as opposed to we're doing it but we're not really going to explain to you why?
I think explanation definitely pays off. Definitely, I would say that.
That's a good question. Jana works with quite a few advanced learners.
And I tend to go that way, so I was wondering.
Yeah, and Jana's like very much about explaining to the kids like why we're doing what we're doing and this is, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. You said you had a sister?
Mm-hmm.
Did she ever tell you what it was like for her to have you have so much attention? Because I always wondered.
I'll tell you this. C.A.R.D has something called Skills Live, and Marla knows the person in charge of that. But there's somebody there who has her own radio show called Autism Miracles. And knowing my mother, and as well as me, she invited my sister on to the show the other week to talk about the experience of having a sibling with autism. I mean, we hear so much from the parents, but we don't really hear from the siblings that much, which I think is also important. And she never really did talk to me about this that much because of just hearing what she got to see. Yeah, it really moved me because it was just stuff that she never said, and it reminded me of how I felt so frustrated and upset with her at times because she just seemed to be so angry at me. It's like what I said earlier about therapists being strict. I mean, my sister was definitely seemed to be hard on me a lot of times, and I was frustrated and upset as to what I could have said or done to have gotten to her. But yeah, I think but as she said that, I think it certainly has made her a better person. I'm really happy for her because she's actually relocating to New York City to begin as a part-time student in a 3-year social work grad program at Fordham University in hopes of eventually becoming a psychotherapist. Having been helped in a big way, it really warms my heart knowing that that's what she wants to do. I mean, I'll make it clear though, because it was musical theater she majored in, she's not giving up on that. But at the same time, she wants to have something else to fall back upon in the event that does not work out for her. And she tells me if she really does go down that path, she'll incorporate the theatrical aspect into her work, which is awesome. And it's a good thing I've not only been to New York, but know of people who might be able to help her. So I kind of been networking and trying to help her get some work because it's going to be a big move and it's going to be costly to go to grad school and all that stuff. So, yeah.
What's the age difference between you guys?
Between my sister and I, it's 2 years, and I have a younger brother as well, who's 7.5 years.
I was wondering, just to follow up on Piana's question, so you were saying that sometimes your sister, wasn't nice to you and you weren't sure why. Do you think that was because she was resentful, or do you think she was ever, a lot of times we wonder about our clients, they have so much attention from adults a lot, and did your sister ever feel angry or resentful that you had that attention that she didn't have as much of?
I would definitely say so because she actually went through major depression one time. I think it was unresolved issues of feeling resentful, of feeling neglected and abandoned. Not that my parents didn't ignore her, but even then, it's when you have an autistic child, that's going to take a lot of your time. And sometimes you feel, and it's just that competitive instinct in siblings. When they feel that their other sibling may be getting more attention than them. But it's I told my sister, you never had to try apologizing in a way that was just a little unnecessary by doing it in the form of public monologues, and I had to be straight up with her about that and say, I never expected any apology from you because you're my sister and I love you, and I understand that it was difficult for you. But I can say we definitely get along a lot better now than when we we were younger and at each other's throats.
And your younger brother, you said, is like 7.5 years younger?
7.5 years younger.
So for him, I guess by the time he was, by the time he has memories, you would have been coming towards, the end of your therapy.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more, my sister definitely has more memories of it than my brother, for sure.
Yeah.
And I never really had any issues with him. Yeah, especially because being a middle child has its advantages.
I have a question. You
Yeah.
talked about a little bit about self-explanatory behavior, and you said you were very visual. Was there anything else, or what was it about that? Can you talk a little bit about what that felt like for you, why you wanted to look at?
Probably
things that
kind
you
of like
haven't
what they
even
say
done?
about having a comfort zone, and that maybe for a lot of kids from autism, that is their comfort zone, and they're just totally at ease with that, even when it's not exactly the most appropriate thing to be doing. That's what I can really say in a nutshell.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I do. I just was wondering if you talk a little bit about how you decided to go to the college that you're going to and what you're doing in school.
Sure. The college I go to, do any of you know of a place called the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington? Okay, so basically, the way I describe it to people who don't know is think of the Pacific Northwest equivalent of what UCSC used to be before it became more aligned with the rest of UCs in terms of, no grades. And in lieu of doing finals for most of your programs, at the end of each core, you have to do something called a self-eval and have an evaluation conference with your professor. And as an undergrad at my school, you're never required to take certain courses, so you always have a lot of freedom from the beginning. And no majors either, but you're certainly required to choose an emphasis for a focus of study. So I'm working towards a BA with an emphasis in cultural studies, and as there's a master's in teaching program, I'm really trying to use this year now and my last year to get credits in the areas that need the most, because I hope to eventually apply to that and eventually become a teacher down the line in either social studies or humanities. And I gotta give a lot of credit to people who help me, because just as what you guys are doing is changing people's lives, teaching does that a lot. And even though I don't know you personally, knowing what you do, that really is something I look up to, just as far as the impact you can have by making a difference or a positive change in somebody's life. So I really admire that, look up to that. So kudos and props to you. And there's that, and also as far as my interests, love biking, love films. I play guitar, been at that for 8 years now. If you check my Facebook, I got this hilarious video of me trying out a talk box, which is the shit. And just hanging with friends, chilling, having a good time, all that good stuff. And you have a question?
Pertaining to your music, I was actually going to ask you, when you were younger and kind of in your therapy years, did you participate in any outside sports or activities?
My family wasn't really into sports,
so they didn't try to put you.
They put me more into the arts, because I've been playing music in general since I was 6 or 7, starting with the piano.
But did you protest that? Is my question.
Nah, I never did.
You never did. Okay.
And music for me ended up very therapeutic, as much as ABA, because you know what? I could do whatever I want with it, and it would never judge me. I felt safe. I felt safe. Kind of like what I read earlier. It just spoke to me. I just felt a calling there. I mean, every time I pick up an axe now, it's like I'm transformed back into a teenager, and it's the best feeling. It really is.
When you were learning to play music, I asked this because we have, actually we used to have, he's graduated now, but we had a client who, when he was learning to play piano, his reaction to learning to play piano was really similar to his reaction to a lot of the things he was learning to do in ABA, where if he made a mistake, he was really hard on himself. So did you ever feel that early on, or you just, for you, music was always just very, it didn't matter if you made mistakes?
I think I might have, but over time it's like, it is what it is. You just
Yeah.
go with it. We're only human.
You also, I guess, then tying that in just in general, you said when you were talking about kind of your therapy early on that you remember getting really frustrated with things when you try and weren't able to do them. Over time, just with, I guess, with not just tasks in therapy, but I guess like anything you'd be learning, like educational tasks or things like that. Do you feel like you got better at dealing with like managing that kind of frustration and not being able to initially tackle something or get something right the first time?
Yeah, I mean, patience hasn't always been one of my strongest strengths, but I've gotten better at it, especially with my current job at school, having to deal with a lot of unruly patrons. Refuse to comply if I have to turn them away because they forget their ID or fee or anything like that.
What kind of job do you have right now?
I work at my school's rec center, so depending on my shift, it's either checking in people at the front desk or checking out equipment or doing my rounds as a rower, being the eyes and ears of building space counts, blocking spaces, responding to patron requests for helps, jack of all trades. So, yeah. So I think just over the years, it's gotten a lot easier for me to not immediately overreact to certain things that are said and done, especially constructive criticism and feedback. And yeah, sometimes, and in most cases, sometimes the best response is no response. Yeah. If you don't know what to say, you don't know what to say. That's fine. Just walk away.
You're doing great.
I'm wondering if you had any sensory issues when you were younger, and so any of those
Could you define them?
if you were sensitive to like noises or types of touch, if you like.
Noise is
Yeah.
probably, but it's not so roaming for me anymore. I don't get completely claustrophobic.
Or did you ever like feel the need to be like squeezed or have like pressure or any of that?
No. As far as I know.
Temple Grandin talks about that a lot.
Yeah,
And
I'm reading her book now, so
I wondered if that's just something very unique to her. I mean, like a lot of people like being hugged, obviously, but she talks so much about that. But over the years of like working in this field, I haven't encountered that often where like that's a particular, she invented, I don't know if you know about this, Nick, she invented something called a squeeze machine for herself. But when she works with farm animals, so it's something that they use with cattle actually to like keep cattle calm, and she then like modified one for herself, and she found that it really helped her calm down. And so it's like back in the 90s when I started doing therapy, I remember reading her book and thinking like, oh, this must be a thing of defining a thing about autism. People like this, they're soothed by this squeezing, but. It's funny, besides her, I don't think I've ever heard another person who previously had autism or who has autism to really talk about that very much. But nothing with touch, like tags, touching you, or...
Nah, it didn't really get to me.
not stuff like that. Yeah, that seems so individual. So do you think you'll go straight on to grad school when you finish?
Not immediately, because the way the situation is now, I want to take time off in between to both establish residency and gain experience that will help me prepare for that sort of thing. And just by establishing residency and doing that would just make it a lot more.
Is that established residency
in Washington?
I'm
And
so
doing
glad
something,
you stayed there.
yeah, and doing something educational either through maybe Teach America or AmeriCorps. And especially having to be on my own by then, and grad school is going to cost a lot, and it's just going to be easier if I'm an ISD resident and have some education awards and that sort of thing. And I still want to be able to live my life a little before I can, as much as I can before I have to really go out into the real world. You know what I mean? So that's what I hope for. can and trying to work hard towards it.